Hi everyone, and welcome back to the College Vine YouTube channel. Before we get started today, you should remember to subscribe below to make sure you never miss any of our top college application tips or test prep strategies. And don't forget that if you find today's video helpful, please go ahead and click the like button below and share it with your friends on social media so they can get the tips as well. Thank you, and let's get started. So today we are going to answer a question that we hear a lot at College Vine, which is, should you take the SAT or the ACT? How do you choose? Which is easier? Should you even take them both? Well, standardized tests often play a big role in the college admissions process. So this is a pretty high stakes question, and it does weigh on the minds of many aspiring college applicants. So today we're going to break down that question for you along with all of the related factors that you should consider. First of all, let's take a look at both the SAT and the ACT and how they're different. Well, the biggest difference between the two exams is that the SAT sections are reading, math, and writing and language. On the other hand, the ACT sections are English, math, reading, and science reasoning. Both tests also have an optional essay section, which some colleges require you to take and others don't. You always want to check the website for which they prefer. The traditional advice has been that the ACT is more concerned with your understanding of specific content, while the SAT is more about reasoning, logic, and problem solving, those more global skills. Both tests have been revamped several times though, and in the most modern versions of these tests, that dichotomy actually is not as accurate. So there are actually more commonalities in what the tests cover than there are differences in today's day and age. The newest versions of the tests have also removed another big difference, which was namely the old SAT's penalty for wrong answers. That penalty used to affect the SAT strategies that were recommended for students. Two other primary differences to consider are the math and science components. The SAT has no science section. So if science is your jam, the SAT may not be as suited to show off your strengths, and you might want to take the ACT. That said, the ACT science section does not measure science content knowledge, but instead the thinking skills relevant to science, like data analysis, hypotheses, critical thinking. On the other hand, one section of the SAT math does not allow the use of a calculator. So if you tend to rely heavily on your calculator, you might consider the ACT to be a better alternative for your math skills. Finally, pacing is another consideration that you ought to take into account. The time you need to spend on each test is really quite similar, but the time allowed for each question on the test is not. Without the essay component, the SAT takes about 3 hours to complete. If you complete the optional essay, which we do recommend that you do, the test will take you 3 hours and 50 minutes to complete. In comparison, the ACT without the optional essay takes 2 hours and 55 minutes to complete. If you complete the optional essay, your time will be extended to 3 hours and 40 minutes, which is only negligibly shorter than the SAT counterpart. That being said, the ACT has significantly more questions on the exam, so you need to move at a much faster pace. If you're the kind of person who needs a lot of time to consider answers, or if you're the type of student who finds that your first hunch on a question is not always accurate, the SAT may be better suited to your pacing and your strengths in answering questions. There are many other small differences between the SAT and the ACT in terms of content, format, timing, and a bunch of other little features. For more information on those differences, you can check out additional posts from our blog. Those are all linked in the comments below this video. So now that we've described the differences, let's move on and think about another related question that we hear a lot. Should I take both the SAT and the ACT? Well, some students may be tempted to take both tests and then submit whichever score is relatively higher, but we at College Vine actually aren't big fans of that strategy. Because we know how different these tests are, we always encourage our students to choose one and focus on it explicitly to actually specialize in one exam or the other. That specialization gives you more time to learn the test and the appropriate content and strategy for it, ensuring that you get the highest score possible, not just moderate scores on both exams. So now that we've discussed the major differences between the two tests and laid out why it's better to focus on just one of the exams, you need to make a choice. And so how do you choose which test is actually best for you? Ultimately, there is no one-size-fits-all answer for which test a person should take. Sorry about that. You do need to make your own decision based on your personal strengths and preferences. But to get started in the right direction, we recommend that you consider a handful of questions that might lead you down the right path. Question number 1, do you excel under pressure? Or do you need more time to consider each question carefully? Students who excel under time constraints might perform well on the ACT, while those who prefer more time for each question may do a bit better on the SAT. Question 2, do you do well with data analysis and critical thinking? The ACT is slightly more favorable towards data analysis and critical thinking, since the science section tests those skills extensively. If interpreting scientific charts and data is your forte, you might consider taking the ACT. In addition, the ACT essay is driven by critical thinking and your ability to build and support an argument, once again under time constraints. If you're able to break down a complicated question into clear, well-evidenced points under a tight time constraint, then the ACT might be the exam for you. Question 3. Do you struggle with mental math or with doing basic calculations by hand? The SAT contains a math section on which no calculator is allowed. So for students who don't excel with mental math and reasoning, that section can be a challenge, and that makes the ACT a better choice. If you anticipate needing to guess on parts of the math section, the ACT may also be a better fit for you because the SAT requires students to bubble in numbers on 22% of math questions. Question 4. Have you taken the PSAT or NMSQT and received a competitive score? If you took the PSAT as a freshman or sophomore and you performed well on that exam, you might consider vying for a National Merit Scholarship. The PSAT is also the National Merit Scholarship qualifying test for high school juniors. Top 1% scorers by state earn the title National Merit Semifinalist and can go on to apply for college scholarships. About 50% of semifinalists become finalists and receive scholarships. Awards are usually a one-time scholarship of $2,500, though some schools may match that amount and renew the award yearly. Some colleges, such as the University of Alabama, even offer automatic full rides to National Merit semifinalists. If you scored around or above your state cutoff in 9th or 10th grade, you might consider studying for the PSAT with the goal of becoming a semifinalist in your junior year. And if you do decide to focus on PSAT prep, it only makes sense to choose the SAT over the ACT, as you'll already be practicing SAT-style questions for that PSAT studying. It's a really efficient way to study for 2 exams at once. Question 5. Are there test centers for each test that are convenient to you? Although there are test centers for each test located around the country, some of those test centers are further apart than others. If there are no test locations within a reasonable distance of your home, you might need to consider the other test or think about travel plans. And once again, you might need to think about that for multiple test dates, which adds inconvenience. Question 6. Does your state require one of the tests or offer it for free? Some states may offer an official annual in-school test sitting where you don't have to pay a thing. 19 states currently have this practice for the ACT, 13 of which actually require the test for all high school juniors. If you'll know that you'll already be taking one of the exams because your state requires it, you should probably consider sticking with that same exam offered for free, especially if the aforementioned factors don't really hold much weight for you. If you're concerned about paying for the tests, though, both the SAT and the ACT do offer fee waivers for both registration fees and sending score reports once it's time to apply to college. Question 7. Are you applying to scholarships that require one test or the other? You may find that particular merit-based scholarship programs actually require scores from either the ACT or the SAT and won't allow you to substitute one for the other. The classic example, of course, is the National Merit Scholarship Program that we talked about before, which is based on participants' PSAT and SAT scores. Each scholarship program has its own rules and requirements, so whenever you apply for a scholarship, you should obviously research its specific terms. That about sums up our advice on choosing whether you take the SAT or the ACT, but if you still aren't sure which test you should pick, consider taking a practice exam in each and seeing how you score relatively on each one. If one of your results is in a significantly higher percentile range than the other, you should obviously select that test as it seems like you naturally perform better on it. For more information about choosing standardized tests, don't miss our series of blog posts linked in the comments below. And also, for more general guidance on building a strong college application or preparing for standardized tests, you can visit CollegeVine online at app.collegevine.com. That's it for today. Thank you for visiting the CollegeVine YouTube channel. And if you're applying to college this season, best of luck.